Hi, I'm Terrence Bethay, and today I'm going to show you how to make Grandma's Southern Fried Apples. Some of the ingredients I'm going to be using today is sugar, which I'm going to use about 1.5 cups of. I'm going to use ground sugar. I'm going to also use 1/2 pound of bacon, already cut in halves. And I'm not going to particularly use the bacon itself. I'm going to use the grease to add that little oomph to the apples. I'm going to use candied decors with cinnamon in them. This is just for taste and color. I'll add a little flavor to go along with the other ground cinnamon. Granny Smith's apples, usually about 9 to 10 apples. I take these apples and I cut them into slices. I'm going to remove the cores, make sure there's no seeds in them. After I take the cores out, I'm going to slice the apples and I'm going to cut them into thin slices. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the heat on. I'm going to put it on 4 right below medium. And then what I'm going to do is start adding the slices of bacon onto the pan. I'm going to cook it on low because, like I said, all I'm going to do is use the bacon for its grease. I'm not going to use the bacon, so you can add this later on to go along with your dish. I'm going to let the bacon cook until it's done, completely done on both sides, just to get enough grease. I just got finished turning the bacon around. As you can see, I done built up some grease. That's what I'm going to be using for the apples. I'm about to take the bacon out, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the eye off on the stove. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the grease out of this pan and I'm going to place it into this pot. This is the pot that I'm going to be using to cook the actual apples. So now while the oil is in the pan with the bacon grease, what I'm going to do is I'm going to swirl it around and make sure it coats the bottom of the pan. I'm going to keep doing this until it's totally coated. The next step is what I'm going to do is take the apples and I'm going to place them into the pan. Okay, now that I got the apples in the pan, what I'm going to do is turn the eye back on. I'm going to do it on medium. I don't want to overcook the apples. The next step requires sugar. Usually it's according to taste, but what I usually do is I start off by adding 1.5 cups of sugar. What I do is I spread it evenly around. As you see, I already added 1 cup. Now I'm adding like 1/2 cup.
Spread it evenly around.
Yeah, spread it evenly around. The next step is adding the candy decors, which has cinnamon already in them. It's just like cinnamon candies, but it colored in red. Normally I could cook the apples with the way they are right now. What this does is it gives them a color, and it gives them that red color, which is more appetizing versus just the green color. So it makes it look more appealing when you serve them. Plus it gives it more flavor. Spread it evenly around. The next ingredient I'm going to use is called ground cinnamon. And like I said, it's according to taste, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to sprinkle it around just enough to coat the whole topping, the top of the apples itself. Remember, you don't have to use too much because you already have the cinnamon candies already in place in the apples. So I do 1 light coat. As you see, I just finished adding the ground cinnamon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this sit for probably about 30 minutes, but periodically what I'm going to do is, because I don't want it to cook too fast, I'm going to come back and I'm going to stir it up to make sure everything mixes up, all the ingredients together. So I'll just move it around just a tad bit. And by me moving all this around, what it's going to do is with the sugar already in on top of the apples, it's going to cause it to make a syrup. It's going to actually, at the end, it's going to remind you of kind of like an applesauce feel to it, but it's going to be a lot better. So what I do is I'm going to let it cook for probably about 45 minutes. And what I'm going to do is periodically, every 10 minutes, come back and I'm going to stir it, adding just a little bit of water to give it that liquid consistency. Now that I've stirred the apples and mixed the ingredients up, the last step is to take the top and place it on there, and that's going to keep the moisture in.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, it's been about 10 minutes. I'm gonna come back. Let's stir the apples up. As you can see, all the ingredients are starting to turn into like this liquidy syrup. They're all mixing up together. And you can also see the apples, how they're changing almost to like an applesauce texture. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna place, after I done stirred it, I'm gonna come back another 10 minutes from now. So for now, I'm gonna let it cook. Put the top back on, give it another 10 minutes. Okay, it's been about 35 minutes. It should be almost finished. And this is exactly what I'm looking for. I want to leave some of the apples in there. I don't want everything mushy because I want a little crunchiness to go along with it. But you still stir continuously. Trying to mix everything up. And you notice how it's all red, more appetizing. You want to leave some of the skin in there because that adds to it. As you see, it kind of looks like applesauce, but it's way better. It's great for breakfast. I've known people to put it on their waffles, bread, biscuits, but that's what I'm gonna serve it up, is with biscuits. Now that I'm done, I'm gonna give it one last stir. This is the consistency in which I was looking for. Now I'm gonna serve it up with biscuits. Serve me up a little bit of apples. Don't forget they're very hot. Then I'm gonna add my biscuits. I'm Terrence Bethay. Thank you for joining me in my kitchen. We're cooking my grandmother's famous fried southern apples. Happy cooking.